So today we are jumping into a Steam game called 13F. We've got the official description from Steam and also this really great YouTube playthrough. 13F, it's a pixel art game, 2D platformer style, apparently inspired by Exit 8.
That's what they say. The idea is you're this, exhausted office worker trapped in a weird office building.
Right, late at night. And you need to find the way down to the first floor, but you do that by spotting anomalies, things that are wrong.
Mm-hmm. The core loop sounds simple. If everything looks normal, go downstairs. See something odd, gotta go back upstairs.
But the description does say sometimes things are not that simple.
Which is where, I guess, the YouTube video comes in handy. 80LH's playthrough really shows you what that means in practice. You see the anomalies, the challenges, the freakouts sometimes.
Oh, definitely. So our mission for this deep dive is basically to get a handle on the game's main mechanics, maybe spot some recurring themes, and figure out just how scary 13F might actually be, just using these sources.
Let's do it. Where should we start? The premise.
Yeah, let's start there. The premise, the setting, it kicks off with something super relatable, right? You're just wiped out after work, late finish, you just want to go home.
We've all been there, that feeling of just wanting to escape the office grind.
Exactly. But then, twist, you're stuck in this weird office building, the elevator's broken.
Of course it is.
And you're on the 13th floor. The unlucky 13th. So stairs it is.
And that's where the weirdness starts, presumably. It takes that mundane setting, the office, and that mundane problem, broken elevator, and just twists it.
Yeah, and the visual style contributes too, right? This hand-painted pixel art, 2D platformer view, it's not hyper-realistic, but it sounds like it has a distinct atmosphere.
Definitely sets a certain mood. So, okay, the main thing you do in the game is spotting anomalies. That's the core gameplay.
Right. Abnormality means go up, normality means go down. Seems straightforward.
Uh-huh. But like you said, not that simple.
Yeah.
And Aito's video, man, it's like a catalog of weirdness.
Seriously. It starts kind of subtle, maybe. Like, there's a cat that seems fine at first, but maybe isn't.
Sure, second-guessing everything.
And then the announcement board, that thing keeps changing. Stuff about staff reporting someone mentally ill, the women's restroom being closed for plumbing.
Oh, yeah, and then later mentions of pest control and insecticide in the restrooms. It starts building this picture.
And it gets darker. A missing girl with a rabbit doll mentioned on the board.
That's a shift in tone, isn't it? From weird building stuff to something potentially more human and tragic.
Yeah. And then there's a security guard who apparently sees a bloody newspaper, or maybe it was a red dress. It wasn't totally clear from the playthrough description.
Either way, not normal office viewing.
Not at all. Then you get things like just a whole floor being dark. Instinct says, go back up.
Right. An immediate visual cue that something's wrong.
Or a crying child sound. That apparently ended one of Aito's runs pretty abruptly.
Yikes. That's effective. Jumps right to an emotional, unsettling sound.
And just loads of other stuff. Signs on doors changing. Seeing someone in the men's restroom when it should be locked or inaccessible.
So inconsistencies. Things that shouldn't be there.
Exactly. Even the environment outside the windows isn't stable. A tree moves. The security guard isn't holding his newspaper anymore. Little details.
It forces you to be hyper-aware of the entire scene, not just looking for one big, obvious thing.
And then you get, like, weird marks appearing on walls, stairs that just lead to the wrong floor.
Okay, that breaks the basic navigation. That's messing with the fundamental rules.
Totally. Swapped signs for the men's and women's restrooms, suddenly not being able to run, which must feel awful in a tense situation.
Oh yeah, losing control like that is classic horror game stuff.
And then, like, a path just appears where there wasn't one before, and this woman in red figure shows up.
Okay, now we're getting into more overt, character-based scares, perhaps, which fits with the developer warning about mature content, right? Gore and stuff.
Yeah, definitely leans into the scary side. And things vanishing, too. The women's restroom just gone. The announcement board disappearing.
So it's not just things appearing, it's things disappearing, too. Unreliable reality.
Makes you doubt what you even saw before. And sometimes the path forward and backward are on the same floor, alternating, like you have to go up and down on floor 8 or something.
That sounds incredibly disorienting, messing with your spatial sense.
Right. Then there's a flashing figure you have to time your movement past, doors and vents popping in and out of existence.
Constant vigilance required.
And then cockroaches in the restroom. Apparently that leads to a sudden death.
Okay, yeah, definitely some gross out moments, too.
Yeah.
Ties back to that pest control notice, maybe.
Maybe. Oh, and reverse text on a newspaper? That's a really subtle one.
You'd have to look really closely to spot that. Clever.
Then there's a fake exit. Leads you all the way back to the start. Brutal.
Oh, that's just mean. Psychological torture right there.
And locked rooms that just open on their own. Getting trapped in some weird red dimension behind numbered doors.
A puzzle element almost within the loop.
Yeah, I'd have seemed pretty confused by that one. And threats. A spider guarding insecticide, the irony.
You need the bug spray, but there's a giant bug. Classic.
Even the grandfather clock on the security desk seems normal, but then maybe it's not. It keeps you guessing.
So even mundane objects become suspect.
Exactly. And the last one mentioned was this choice, a sign that says exit versus just walking forward. Turns out the sign was the anomaly.
Yeah. That really plays with your expectations. The obvious goal is the trap.
It seems like the sheer variety is key. You never know what kind of weirdness you're looking for next.
Keeps you permanently on edge. So, moving on to themes and tone. Steam tags are always interesting. What do we have?
A real mix. Adventure, indie, RPG, simulation, even dating sim and roguelike were user tags.
Dating sim. Okay, that one feels like maybe a joke tag, unless there's something really hidden. Roguelike is interesting, though. Suggests maybe some procedural stuff, or high stakes.
Could be. But the core seems to be adventure, puzzle, platformer, horror, psychological horror, mystery. And that, inspired by Exit 8, tag points to observation, right?
Yeah, and the developer's own warning about it being scary and needing caution for certain players.
Yeah.
That sets a clear expectation. Plus the gore tag.
It's definitely leaning into the horror aspect, but it's that mix. The pixel graphics, the 2D view, but also immersive sim.
I think the immersive sim tag probably comes from how much you have to pay attention to the environment. You're constantly scanning, checking details, trying to figure out the rules. That can feel very immersive, even without complex systems.
Makes sense. And it's the contrast, isn't it? The totally normal, kind of boring office setting.
Yeah, the ultimate mundane space.
And then all this increasingly bizarre, scary stuff happening within it. That subversion is powerful.
Absolutely. Familiarity twisted into the uncanny. That's classic horror territory. And you mentioned Ido's reactions in the video. Some humor there.
Oh, yeah. Definite moments of nervous laughter, disbelief. You know when something utterly absurd or terrifying happens? Did that, undercut the scares?
Possibly for the viewer.
Yeah.
But maybe for the player, it's a necessary release. A coping mechanism when you're faced with, cockroaches causing instant death or a fake exit. It highlights the absurdity alongside the fear.
True. Okay, so what about the game itself? Developer, reception.
Developed and published by Pixelcat. Released pretty recently, June 20th, 2024.
And the reception seems good. Very positive on Steam.
Yeah, 95% positive out of 86 reviews at the time the source info was pulled. That's a strong signal that people are digging it.
And it's cheap too, right? $3.99?
Yeah, very accessible price point. Probably helps get people to try it out.
It's got 7 Steam achievements too for the collectors out there.
Good to know. And the language support looked pretty decent.
Yeah, English, Japanese, simplified, and traditional Chinese. Full audio and subtitles for all of them, apparently.
That's pretty comprehensive for a small indie title. Shows some effort to reach a wider audience.
And the system requirements, not too demanding.
Pretty modest. Windows 10, an i5 processor, only 1 gig of RAM needed, an older GTX 970 graphics card. Should run on a lot of machines.
Good stuff. Okay, so wrapping this deep dive up, 13F seems to be all about that core loop. Spot the anomaly in the office. Simple idea, but
executed with a huge variety of weirdness, from subtle shifts to outright scares and environmental manipulation.
yeah, it mixes adventure, horror, puzzle solving, maybe hints of other genres, all in this pixel art package. The key seems to be that unsettling atmosphere built on twisting the familiar.
Exactly. It looks like a focused, maybe short, but intense experience that relies on observation and dealing with constant unpredictability. Ido's playthrough certainly suggests it keeps you guessing.
For sure. So that leaves us with a final thought for you, the listener. Why is the office setting so effective for horror like this?
Is it because it's usually so structured, so routine, that breaking those rules feels extra violating? Or maybe it taps into those low-key anxieties about work, being trapped late nights.
Could be both. It makes you think, doesn't it? What other everyday places you know really well, could turn super creepy if the rules just bent a little? Your commute, the supermarket, your own house.
Something to chew on, that feeling of the familiar becoming hostile. It's potent.
Definitely. Okay, that's it for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us.